To continue in verse 12, from the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven suffers violence, and violent men take it by force. Get the context of the passage, because what we're told about these words of Jesus is, as the people of God, we should be men of violence, and we should be praying violent prayers, and we should be taking the kingdom by force. I hear it on a relatively regular basis, especially on Christian television. What we're being told here by Jesus comes immediately after two of John's representatives have come to Jesus and asked him about his identity and about the nature of his ministry. They had to do that because John the Baptist had been arrested and had been dragged off to prison and was awaiting execution in prison by a king who was exercising his authority in a very ungodly way, and instead of exalting righteousness, was doing his own thing. John the Baptist had himself suffered violence at the hands of violent men. This is the immediate antecedent of the passage we're studying. Add to that this: in the Hebrew Bible, in the Dead Sea Scrolls, in the works of the early rabbis, in Josephus, the first century Jewish historian, in other passages in apocryphal and what are pseudepigraphical texts, these passages from ancient literature that came between Malachi and Matthew during the time of what we call the intertestamental, or between the testaments period. This phrase in Hebrew, men of violence, anshe Hamas, is used on a regular basis to speak of people that the author of any text that you want to pick is in disagreement with. It is walking not in the ways of God, but in the ways of the destroyer, the enemy, the adversary. These are people who are bad people and who are doing bad things to good people. And so it would be highly unlikely for Jesus to use that phrase, violent men, or in Hebrew, anshe Hamas, or its Greek equivalent that we have here and in the works of writers like Josephus. It would be highly unlikely that he would take this phrase, men of violence, which is never used in a positive context in Jesus' world, and turn that on its head, use that in a positive way, and expect people to track with it who were listening to him. Very, very unlikely. Take any very negative phrase with a very negative connotation and try using that in popular speech in a very positive way, and people are not going to follow your argument. As good a communicator as Jesus is, it's not likely that he would take a phrase that is only used negatively in his culture and turn that on its head to try to make some kind of a positive statement. So these are people, violent men, who are taking representatives of the kingdom and doing with them whatever they want to do, as Herod Antipas, the middle son of Herod the Great, has done with John the Baptist, arresting him, putting him in prison, and eventually executing him by beheading.